All right, we're just now we're live. Okay, well, again, apologies. Even less professional than usual, but this is all StreamYard's fault this time. Long story short, tried to go live, got the wheel of death for about 2 minutes, and now it's finally taken us live. But anyways, you've got Vikings and you've got Panthers. It's free agency. It's tampering period. The trades are fine, fast and furious. Major changeover in the league, and we're about to start our free agency at noon tomorrow. James, if you love chaos, is there a better time of year?
No, best time in the NFL season is seeing all the changes, getting all the optimism, and then you know getting to the start of the season just to have your dreams crushed on the first game of the year when you know Aaron Rodgers plays 5 snaps and is done for the year. Or you watch Daniel Jones lay on his back more than stand upright.
Oh man, yes, it's the highs and lows, the buys and sells. It's the time of year where you're trying to strike while the iron's hot, cash out or buy low at the right time. So we're going to talk about what we've seen so far in free agency in real life NFL and what that means for our league. We'll talk about some of the pre-free agency positioning that's gone on from a trade perspective, and then we'll talk about a couple of I guess maybe just an overview of what free agency is going to look like here, and with all of this money, will we see kind of some of that money going first? So, not giving away all the secrets here, James, but it should be a good show.
Gotcha. You got somewhere you want to start, Mike?
Well, I think just maybe from the top, running backs here, there, and everywhere. Who's been your favorite running back signing so far?
As the Saquon owner, I can't say I'm really upset that he ended up on one of the best offensive lines in football. So, as a Cowboys fan, I'm going to cry twice a year, but, it's definitely going to be fun to finally watch him in a competent offensive system get a chance to actually show some of his talents.
True. And I got to say, I just enjoyed watching the Giants work today. Wasn't the first guy out of any block in any which way, but as soon as the first guy went, I feel like we're involved in the second or third signing at that position. It's like, oh, we didn't get Saquon back, but we got Devin Singletary. Oh, well, we didn't quite get this interior alignment. We got this guy. And they just kind of had those also ran signings. But I love the Singletary signing for that because it tells us absolutely nothing. Singletary is either going to be a great, 1A or 1B. So he's going to have a share on that offense. Great. We don't know if it's the lion's share or the change of pace back. He's just that kind of player. So it's some of those signings where it's like, hey, eternal optimism, but the other side of it saying, hey, signing, we don't know anything yet.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where it's just really dangerous too, because everywhere he's gone, the offensive coordinator, head coach has just raved about him. It's just the guy's always in there, great energy. He's always working hard, training hard, practicing hard. It's definitely one of those guys you think is just going to have longevity in the league for that kind of, enthusiasm he brings into a locker room. So if they draft somebody, just, a great mentor. And then if they draft somebody and the guy is, oh, I got my money, kind of being a little, maybe not well-rounded as a pro yet, Singletary's can push him for that job. So he's just a wild card. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out.
It's going to be fun. And then some of the bigger signings, Kirk Cousins. Dad sat the Vikings down yesterday and said, son, I'm sorry, but this is a tough conversation, but me and your mom are getting a divorce. And I'm going to be heading down to Atlanta, and you're going to be staying up here with her. And I'm sorry, but have a good life. He's got $180 million, $100 million of it guaranteed down in Atlanta with a whole bunch of high draft capital weapons.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun being Kirk.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. Fun to see, get Kirk in there. Really good O-line. That team was really close to being a playoff team last year. without competent QB play. You get some competent QB play. Hopefully they can, keep some of those defensive assets they brought in, some of the older guys. But, if you're a Falcons fan, just hang out around some of your local Coles and maybe you'll get a couple autographs.
Well said. Well said. And then from a defensive perspective, the big signing of the day was, of course, in Las Vegas. Christian Wilkins signing there for 4 years, $104 million. He's a big one and does some fun things to that defense.
Yeah, I didn't see this one happening. It was a big surprise. That D line can be really, really good really quickly. That secondary is already good. You put Wilkins inside. You have a NASCAR package where they put the Texas Tech, was it Tyree Wilson inside too with Wilkins, with Crosby on one side and Kuntz on the other. That could generate quite a bit of pressure. It's gonna be interesting to see how they play this year.
I think it would just be fun to see them be like agents of chaos, but just because I enjoy being an agent of chaos, right, Pats? That's what we do.
I mean, I'm telling you, I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. If my team didn't change, or you're watching your team didn't change, flip over every week. I don't even know if I'd even play fantasy football in this league. It's
true. Now you are joining the podcast in the bathtub, right? That is happening. You are in a bathtub.
No, not yet. Actually, the water's running, so Mondays is my day off from working out. So, I'm an old man.
Got us all hot and bothered and everything.
You joke about that, but I have a friend who might end up eventually being a replacement in here, and he likes to take baths with his cat and send us photos in group chats.
Oh my God!
Oh man, good news! Oh, Pat. Sometimes when you do good things happen to you. You know that. You know who just signed Jordan Hicks?
Who?
The Browns.
Oh Lord. Good for them, though.
Hey, Jordan Hicks and Jock, that's a fun combo.
Jordan Hicks for 2 years, $8 million. So there you go. We weren't sure where he was going to go, and now you've got Browns middle linebacker for 2 years on a nice cheap contract. Good on you.
Yeah. So like when you've been a Browns fan for 40-some years, you get to be like kind of like a bitter wife. You know what I mean? It's her husband. Because they've been together for so long. So that's like my relationship with the Browns right now.
Fair enough.
But
terms
the
of
other
general NFL, go ahead.
The other big defensive signing, though, was more the sign and trade of Brian Burns.
Yeah, I was going to say that comes out to what, $150 million for 5 years for a second and a fifth. Talk about the draft compensation, but holy shit, $30 million a year for pass rusher, like. He's damn good. Holy shit.
It just screams, hey, we're resetting at QB after we get rid of this Danny Dimes contract. Because that's the kind of money you can pay guys if you don't have a $40 million quarterback. So
this is true. Damn.
Yeah, I kind of feel like some team every year is going to push the payment envelope on a different position every year just because the money's just getting crazy.
Yeah, well, they don't really have a lot of guys to pay really right now because they got Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, and that's about the end of their top end contracts. So, and this is the last year of guaranteed money for Daniel Jones. So once he's gone, they still have a lot of money. It's just whether or not they can add a quarterback to actually become competitive.
This is true. All right. Any pessimism from signing so far where you're saying, hey, it's too bad that this guy went here, or is it all kind of I think it's mostly all good, but I can't see anything unless you guys do that really is a sign for, tough shit, man.
We talked about it a little bit pre-pod. Some of the safety money, especially like Xavier McKinney getting, roughly $17 million a year, when there's just as many safeties available as there are, just feels like they just jumped out a little too early and spent a little bit too much.
Yep, agree. I think there are some bad, some not great money spent. I think the signings are fine, but again, the order of operations for how you would spend your money definitely could use some closer examination. Anyways, talking about closer examination, we're not going to get super close on this because 24 trades since last week. So I take my share of the responsibility here because I was an unhinged animal for the better part of the week and weekend. But, again, I love you all. We're all deranged, and we're about to have open season on free agency tomorrow. So it's going to be an excellent, excellent time to be in the league. We took a straw poll beforehand. We think the last trade that we did not cover in the previous pod was Saints and Jags. Saints giving up the 217 and 323 for Joey Bosa and Preston Smith. Let's see. They come out to $20 million in terms of their cap hit. A little bit older, but that feels cheap for that level of production. Did I lose you guys?
No, just more good buys. Saints has found a good chunk of decent buys on guys because it kind of feels like Joey, you could easily get that refunded. Not too sure about Preston Smith, but still, it's just a good addition for him, and Jags a good way to dump some of his edge room because he's got plenty of them.
Yep. Continuing right along, Saints then buying Jahan Dotson, Fedarian Mathis, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for me for 126, 214, and 304. So my continued teardown and acquiring of picks continues. Browns giving up Gregory for 420 and a future fifth. Then Saints doing another big buy here, 110 to the Colts for Jason Owe, Jalen Phillips, Dayon Henley, 122, and the Chargers third. So some big moves taking place there. Anything you want to jump in on there, James?
That's a lot for the 110. Move down 12 spots, changing out of 312 for another unlikely, non-playoff third for the future year, and getting, what is considered a good to very good edge. Injured. We'll see how he comes back. A linebacker who should have a more predominant role in, whatever OA can become.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, just the depth alone. It took me about, I don't know, I've been in this league since the beginning, 26, 20. It took me that long to figure out depth is damn important in this league. So getting that many pieces for not much turnover. I mean, I think it's a great trade for the Saints.
Yep. Continuing along, I get my hooker back for Noah Brown, Davin Godchow, and 515. Hooray, I have my hooker. Gotta love that. Bears giving up 213 and the Bengals future third for Josh Palmer. James, you should be ashamed of yourself.
You like my side that much, or you hate my side that much? Because I do genuinely really like Josh Palmer. It's just the matter of, going into a fifth year option year, going up to 17, 18 million versus getting the picks and the chance to just reset what some of the earlier picks I already have. Was the only real reason I did it.
The reason I say this is because I'm going to miss wide one way or the other. I'm either going to be incredibly right or I'm going to be very, very super wrong when it comes to Josh Palmer, I feel like, because I'm out on him, but there's a path to him being the wide receiver 2 in Los Angeles next year with Justin Herbert, which is worth a lot more than the 213. That said, there's a way that everything falls out and he's the wide receiver 4 there, and or a free agent next year, and you would cry to be able to get the future third for him. So I'm leaning towards that second one, but I feel like I'm just absolutely going to be wrong whatever way I go on it. So I just accept that and stay away.
Gotcha. No, I think he's going to be a very solid pro. So it was one of those, I wanted to keep him, but I felt it was a good enough offer to just avoid the 5th year.
Yep. Then Bears not being done, flips some picks this year, the 127, 202, and 430 to me for the Giants future first, the Chiefs future first, and the Raiders future fourth. So he grabs draft assets next year, gets to continue to build his war chest. I grab some more picks this year. Eagles and Bucks, Mike Williams and 302 for 130 and 431. Lands out Mike Williams probably an early second in value. I mean, this just kind of works out. I don't know. Again, there's outcomes on either side here, but Mike Williams, I feel like that price makes sense.
I'm really not a fan of Mike Williams. The guy struggles to separate. He's coming back off an ACL tear. He's more than likely getting cut by Wednesday. You have no idea where he lands. Being in Bucks division, I love it. But I think he could have some production, but I don't think it's the top end production's ever coming back.
Yep, I like. Yeah.
I don't know. I think we'll see what happens. I think he's got a lot of different ranges of outcome here. I feel like he's one of those guys that, like you said, shouldn't work out the way he does, but will probably work out for the better. I don't know. Panthers picking up Tyler Lockett for Uchenna Nwasu, and the Bengals 25 third. Considering Lockett just extended with Seattle a couple days later, didn't work out too poorly for you.
Yeah, no, I was excited when I saw the news. It was one of those things where if Lockett got cut, he's good enough that one of these teams making a playoff push is going to pick him up and he'll have another good year. Then, getting the extension, just cherry on top. JSN owners are crying, though, but I don't own any shares, so I'm cool.
I mean, it's just complete madness right now when it comes to Seattle and their passing offense and everything from that standpoint. But we'll come back to that later on. I apologize again. I don't like to talk about my team very much here, but I did make a lot of these trades, so we'll go through them. But please, let's go through them on the rapid side, unless you guys want to talk through them. Eckler, Najee Harris, AJ Brown, and the 202 for Greg Dworch, 104 and 119. I consolidated the picks, and so far, so good for Bill on the players he's bought from me.
Yeah, I don't hate it or love it. It's just one of those things to where the picks that he gave up versus the potential short future for the running backs is kind of interesting, given that the rest of his roster isn't really fully fledged out. So I don't know if I would have been that excited about this deal. I think I would have tried something a little bit different, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's I'm just kind of ho-hum on this one.
Well, I keep flipping, taking the 104 with Debo and getting Amon-Ra and Geno Smith from the Bucks. Geno less than $1 million on that contract right now. Granted, his future in Seattle may be short-lived. Amon-Ra, again, one more year at the sub $3 million mark, but that boy's going to get paid and going to get paid in a hurry. Let's see. Panthers and Saints making a couple of swaps here. Hendrickson and 308 for Bradley Chubb and 213. Panthers gets a lot younger and moves down by about a round. And a good bit cheaper too, because it was Chubb.
I get older. Chubb's younger.
Chubb's 27. Jesus. Huh.
Yeah, Chubb's younger, and he moves up around. It's really just, hey, you have 100 million. I have 30. You want to change that to 90 and 40, and you get to move up around, and you also get a year younger. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad cap dump. And again, for very equivalent players in terms of the production when they're healthy. Saints move at 132 and 205 to pick up Jerome Ford in the 207. So just probably like very late first valuation for Ford, but he was a 200-point back when he got his position last year, and there's not a unforeseen circumstance where he gets that kind of role again this year. He was pretty good at it, so could very well continue.
Yeah, the O-line was really beat up too, and they didn't have a quarterback solution until they finally brought in, comeback player of the year, future $7 million free agent quarterback Joe Flacco.
But of course, we have Justice Hill getting dumped for the 515. Justice Hill contract is just under 18 million. So again, about fifth round pick, mid fifth for 18 million dump. Not a bad price to pay. 207 for Pete Werner. I mean, Werner's got the role to be able to put up some really great numbers at linebacker there, but needs to stay healthy and needs to, actually do it for a full season.
Yeah, it's just a far better contract than most linebackers get now.
That's true.
That's where the real value's at.
But
yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, that's where Pete's been trading around for the last probably 2 or 3 years. So I mean, it's nothing good or bad there. I think it's a good trade for. I don't know about Chiefs. I mean, middle linebackers are probably going to become scarce at some point, or somebody's going to realize it. But 207 is not bad to pay for him.
Yeah, but you only have to start one down. He's got a good group. So.
All right, but then Pats and I get nutty here. We've talked at nauseum about Brock Purdy and his free agency. No way he's ever going to get traded. It's a $116 million contract. There's no way. Of course, I had to try and trade for the contract. And of course, I traded for the contract because I'm me and I've got a fucking problem, okay? Brock Purdy, T. Higgins, Greg Rousseau, and Devin Lloyd for Geno Smith, Amon-Ra, Robert Beal, Drake Jackson, Jordan Hicks, and Robert Spillane. I'm a dog chasing a car sometimes. I love the interesting team building dynamic that Purdy gives you for a building team with a lot of draft capital who owns their future picks. With that in mind, a contract like Purdy's is almost an asset rather than a liability. I understand if I'm galaxy braining this, but that's at least how I'm coming at this. So because of that, trying to soak up some extra value by moving off a couple other spots. But I get it if people think that I've lost my ever-loving marbles here.
Yeah, it just comes down to the factor of, you're a team that always shuffles. You always do this, that, and the other. And I think in about 3 days, there won't be a single team in the league that has enough cap space to take that player. And I don't know many who will want that contract. But I definitely see where you're going with it. It's definitely. I just hate to see Amon-Ra move as much as he's moved in the last couple of days.
Well, I mean, maybe he just has to move one more time. Someone just has to talk to Patriots and get him a good home. So, pick up your phones and dial. Call Pats and make a deal happen here. Help find Amon-Ra a good home.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I'm the odd one here. I like either side of that trade. Like I would, if it wouldn't have ever happened, I would have been fine with it. If it would have happened, or it did happen, obviously I was fine with it. Like obviously I had prepared a lot longer than you're preparing now for my roster to be able to actually have players in it. I mean, I still had about 40 million cap space, and I was gonna trade T. Higgins and get that up to 50. I mean, I'd been prepping that since I traded, Kyler Murray to you for that 129. And granted, him going up to 116 mil was a little bit of a shocker. I was thinking more in the 75 to 80 mil range. But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter at this point, just trying to get cheap young players. And I would say the only bad thing for you is like Carolina said, right? Is like your flexibility to just move guys consistently, like big guys, and move into playoff. Move that you're going to be make a run for the playoffs and not make a run. It definitely took a hit. Right?
Yeah, the big part of it is if we looked at Mike's team and he didn't have the treasure chest that he has in draft picks, I think everybody in the league would hate this and would be yelling at him. But when you sit there and you look how many picks he has, and this year, next year, his own pick and everything, it's just like, let him cook.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, barring anything crazy, Purdy could just be a normal price quarterback in 2 years. Which, the justification in my mind was, hey, I paid a 129 for a guy was like finished third and fifth and eighth and set, what I mean, or would have finished those in the last 5 years. That's what me and Colts were talking about the other day. So, I mean, good pick, and as long as you can get his contract at least cut down in half, then it's not too bad.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those things though, to where all those are assets. We only have so many renegotiations you can use in that time period. Only so many trade extensions. Only so much XYZ, and that just goes into he had to pay X for Purdy, and then he's also got to use the extensions or the renegotiations just to get him to where he has more space for the rest of his team.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm at 13 players right now. My picks cover about within 35 million in terms of overall cap, and give me 18 players, and I would still have 17 million on top of that for the last 10 to 12 players in my roster. So I'm not exactly scraping by on min players right now, but I know for sure I can fill out a roster. So we'll sort that out. And again, some of this stuff may change too, because I've got Zach Moss for 15.5. Word is he's going to sign someplace, and I think once he signs, I'll be able to move him for a reasonable pick also. So nonetheless, we'll see things as they go. But I'm using this $116 million asset as a boon rather than a albatross at the moment. Let's see. Yep, I just flipped Higgins to Saints for 123 and 213. Again, just picking up more picks in that range. I take Devin Lloyd from this deal with a 214, get the 121 and 308. And then it's time to start freeing up cap space. Greg Dortch for the 502. I'm just happy to get a pick back. Dortch, however, is going to be a worthwhile piece. 10 million is not that bad of a price to pay. We'll pause there because then Buccaneers and Giants get buck wild.
Yes, they did.
All right, so we got Bucks giving up the 104, Gus Edwards, Keaton Mitchell, Jared Everett, and Michael Hotek for Jared Goff, Elijah Mitchell, Javonte Williams, and Trayvon Walker. I had so many reactions to this trade because, I mean, it accomplished what both sides wanted. So I love the trade for what it was. I feel like this is like the Colts and Pats saying, hey, Colts, you got 3 really good receivers, and us, the Pats, we could really use one. So can you send us Brandon Stokely, and we'll send you, you could use another cover corner. How would Ty Law sound? So Ty Law for Brandon Stokely. Sound good? Cool. Let's swap those guys and see what happens to our teams next year. Like, that's a level of heavyweight battles we've seen between Giants and Bucs so far. And this just answers a lot of the needs for both sides.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Getting Gus Edwards, having him to go to LA, Keaton Mitchell coming back, hopefully getting healthy and getting probably not the RB1 role, but some kind of change of pace at Baltimore to where here and there he'll pop off a big run to go along with his age chain and his popping off big runs. And then Bucks getting a proven quarterback instead of having to gamble on a rookie, trying to extend his contending window. It's definitely interesting. Both of those teams, though, I feel have added a decent chunk of a little bit more risk to a degree. Giants obviously more so, having the 2 top 5 picks, but definitely gonna be interesting.
I'm cautiously optimistic because we know RJ's been thinking about this pick, and yes, he's going to sit on the clock when he gets on the clock to see if anyone wants to do anything, but he's not necessarily going to sit on the clock to sit on the clock. Commanders, back-to-back Giants picks, and then Colts. Again, there's enough different ways you can go, I feel like, with the top 5. Granted, the draft may clarify some things, but I could absolutely see seeing all 5 of those picks, see the person come on and say, I'm going to get some time for people to offer, and then disappear for 8 hours. So I love that the owners of the picks are engaged, and I don't want to necessarily cast them off and say that I'm, saying you guys are going to slow down the draft and everything. But I am concerned that I feel like these guys are going to, because of the price they paid to get into these picks, are going to sit there and try and squeeze every drop out of these picks. And, I feel like that's going to make it less fun for those of us who are excited to get the draft started.
Yeah. You pay up for all this and you guys sit there on the clock and you have to do the risk assessment of, do I want X to this X to this team, or do I want to trade down to, what pick and what other picks can I get along with that, and how would my roster look if I sat there and with all that. And it's definitely going to be interesting. I think it's a lot more interesting if they use the picks than if they just keep trading and trading and trading, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and I mentioned it earlier, it's that rookie FOMO, because if you go back the last 5 drafts in this league, like at least 2 of the top 5 haven't necessarily been very good or haven't panned out. Obviously, AR-15 and Bryce Young are still like, they could be the ones that are bad, but that's still out there. But if you just look back, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. That's all just from this class that's coming up right now in their 5th-year options. If they haven't already, had been dealt, whatever with their actual NFL. But yeah, it's definitely interesting because, it definitely has that kind of feel that it could be another one of those drafts. I'm not necessarily saying about the top 3, but we have a chance to see 5 guys go in the first round, and some of those guys are definitely those borderline, very questionable kind of decisions to take that high, at least in my opinion.
Hey, but we keep making the mistakes because, maybe this time will be different. Let's see. Dumping Damian Harris on the Colts for the 519. Thank you very much. Gerald Everett for 324 and a future third from Saints. So Giants offloading some of the cap and some of the assets he just acquired. We had a nice 2 QB stack in Denver. However, he's flipped the new Atlanta QB, Kirk Cousins, for Roquan Smith and the 424. And then I moved down from 121 to 132 and pick up Ty Chandler in the process. Yes, I read the Matt Berry article. Yes, I'm buying because I think he could be something based off that article. I'm either going to be very right or very wrong, and I'm okay with that.
It's never too awful when you move down 11 spots and pick up a player that has an opportunity.
Unless you're me.
Well, But it's only a problem if we're the ones offering for you to drop down and you don't want to do it. If it's not us, it's not a problem.
No, I've just had that. It just seems like the last few years. I remember the Jets running back with the Panthers. I can't remember what his name is.
Michael Carter.
Carter. That
Yeah,
happened.
that was before day 2 of the draft started, and you bought him, and then literally 30, 40 minutes later, Jets walk up to the podium. We'll select Brees Hall, and then Michael Carter just nosedive. Hey, I have him back if you want to buy him again.
No.
Oh, that sucks so hard. All right, so looking at free agency here in our league, we have a shitload of money available, but let's talk about what is available. Joe Flacco, Josh Dobbs, Jig Browning, Taysom Hill. There are going to be some interesting prospecting quarterbacks, I feel like, in this current class. Although I feel like we always get into our free agency at a really fun time because the first wave of tampering is done. So we know where some have gone. We have inklings on where the next wave of guys are going, and we can bid off of that. But then there's the complete just prospecting aspect of it, saying, hey, I hope this guy ends up in a good spot, but we have no idea, so I'm just going to bid on him and hope for the best, which is a great form of gambling that just is terribly irresponsible, but works out pretty well for a lot of different teams. So from kind of position by position, we'll talk about what you guys feel the market is right now. So from the quarterback position, you guys feel like this is a prospecting market, or this is a complete craps table, roll the dice situation?
Well, you only have the one fun one in there, really, and it's Sam Darnold, Mister. Let me go revive my career in San Fran. And now you got all these rumblings of the Vikings' backup plan is, Trey Lance, who is rostered currently, or Sam Darnold, who, you just throw money at him. And anytime there's a quarterback you can just throw money at, that's going to be a potential starter. It's one of those guys that I think everyone would enjoy to see sit and wait until we know the news. But more than likely, someone's going to put him up tomorrow before anybody knows anything about Sam. And before we know it, he'll probably already be at like $5, $6, $7 million because everybody wants that cheap second starter. And then, if news breaks, all of a sudden we could blink and he could be at 30, 40 million.
Yeah, I would say the one I find the most intriguing is Taysom Hill, just in case MFL does something crazy and moves him back to tight end. Like, how expensive is that going to get with him at quarterback? But like, I'm not even thinking about him as a quarterback. Obviously, I think money's going to get spent on a lot of these names, just because I remember Drew Lock last year went for like 25 million or something. So the money's just going to get spent on anybody that has a possibility of getting a job, because there is a lot of money.
Now the fun's going to be, do people start to grab kickers and punters this early? There of the 32 potential teams, only 4 currently have a kicker on their team. Everyone else has a kicker in free agency. From a punter perspective, that number drops to 27. So there's 5 punters and 4 kickers currently rostered in our league, either because they have a long-term contract, or they were franchised or transition players or something of that standpoint. Shame on all of you. But nonetheless, do you feel like people are going to prioritize this position at all since there's so much available, or is it just kind of sit back, wait, and let somebody else spend $6 million on a punter when I get mine for $500K?
I think the big thing is it's just wave one. In this league, we have a real wave one. Everybody can only put up one person. Everybody wants to go ahead and get active. The whole first wave always seems to be very overpriced. Like I said myself in the chat, I'm putting up Joe Flacco, because if I get him for $450K, cool. But I think someone's going to go out there and spend $6, $7 million. And that's $6, $7 million that someone else won't have the next time I put someone up. So putting up a kicker or punter, first wave, do it. Make people waste their cap. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think there's going to be at least one team that probably spends too much on a punter and kicker is going to regret it.
Yep. And then defense, I mean, so much of this is going to revolve around who lands where. There's definitely some very productive players I think some have some pretty good positions. Some are still having to sign and figure out exactly whether they're going to be in a good spot or not. But I think there's a lot of value on the defensive side. The offense, it's kind of, I'd say, very much segmented into where the value lies. Defense definitely is going to get some. I think there's going to be some really good contracts this year coming from this free agency.
It definitely feels that, defensive tackle, corner, and safety are deep. I feel like they usually are. The other thing is just, defense end and linebacker. There's a few guys. There's not a lot. Part of it too is just knowing currently, what teams to let who go and who is still rostered. Because there's definitely a few guys on the edge and linebacker group where it's like, all right, well, that team literally only has 2 linebackers and he's one of them. He's a lesser known name. If I wait till the second or third wave, you might be able to get him for $3 or $4 million. And then if they don't pick anybody up, all of a sudden you have a $2 or $3 million starting linebacker who might get you 120, 130 points.
This is true. All right. That gets us to the end of that. So free agency starts at noon tomorrow. Our fearless leader, the commissioner, Jeremy, sent out details of how that's going to go and how to approach that. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. Let's get that sorted to make sure that you guys are ready to roll for tomorrow. I'm excited because, the more things that happen, the more activity that happens, the more reasons people get on the site, the more things that happen, it's more fun. I mean, it's more fun to talk about a podcast when we're talking about 24 trades instead of 8 trades. So keep doing your thing, keep building the teams way you want to build them, and keep engaging. I love having you guys on here to talk about sort of your vision for your team and where you're going with things. So enjoy the next week. I'm sure it's going to be mad. I don't imagine what would cause an emergency podcast, but I'm not going to rule it out. But just enjoy, guys. But thanks again, Pats and Panthers, for joining. We'll get the post-pod going here. I'm sure we'll get a couple more folks on here and see what other magic we can make happen. So until next time, appreciate it.